It's the Full Court Press with Eric Franson and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, ends up, yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Welcome on back into the Full Court Press. Jason Walker here. We just had JD Walker on for a moment at the end of last hour, but I can see them if I crane my neck a little bit. They're over in the KVNU studio getting KVNU Aggie game day going as they are preparing for a matchup in just over an hour, right about an hour, depending on how on time they're going to be with their actual tip-off. Utah State will take on VCU down in Frisco, Texas. If you want to listen to their preview, I've also got my written preview, including some important details on how to watch that game, as it's on like the Urban something network, the Urban Edge network. There's links to watch on Utah State's website. It is free, so like don't worry, it's a free broadcast. Heck, there's a link to it on the article that I put on CashValleyDaily.com. Some key information there, availability reports, whatnot. The whole 9 yards, everything you need to know heading into that game. We previewed that game more in the first hour and all of its nuances there. If you're on an Aggie basketball fix, you can go listen to KVNU because we're going to sit here and talk Aggie football. They'll be able to lead you into tonight's game, but I'm going to lead you into the weekend here with some talk about Utah State football, previewing Utah State's game, a little bit of the Mountain West. You'll also hear from Josh Sterzer and Gabe Iniguez as they met with Eric earlier in the week to do interviews with him and discuss the bye week and the keys for Utah State coming out of the bye week to try and make sure they get a win on their home field, Merlin Olsen Fields, try and remain undefeated at home as the Aggies. They're 4-4 on the season, but they are 4-0 at home. And they would certainly like to stay undefeated at home. So what are the keys for Utah State? And to me, I look at this game and I trying to avoid sounding like a broken record. And you'll hear some of my thoughts. We're on Aggie Roundtable for Utah State football, that you'll hear on the Aggie pregame, the KVNU Aggie pregame show tomorrow. But to me, let's start with the offense. Let's start with these offensive keys. And trying to get a little more nuance than just say, well, the offensive line's got to play better. We'll get to the offensive line. But I think one of the biggest things they need is just to have consistent first and second down offense to set up good high percentage third down attempts. And even in some cases, when you're kind of in that 4-down-ish territory where like between the 45 and 35 and you're thinking about going for it, set yourself up for either a good third down and or fourth down attempt. And a big part of that comes from when I look at Utah State's rate of third and fourth down success. A lot of people can look at just third down conversion rate, and obviously that's that's most of the story. You just tack on fourth down success as well. And when I look at Utah State's third and fourth down success on offense, I see a team that is 127th in converting on third or fourth down when they go for it. And that is just a completely unacceptable thing because it means that you can't keep drives going. And here's the interesting thing about Utah State. I don't know how much I've mentioned these stats. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned them at some point, but it was weeks ago. But I'll use, CFBgraphs.com is one area of kind of advanced stats. I don't know if they're super advanced, but kind of an underneath the hood type stats to like try and get a little more understanding and context to some of just the raw stats that you'll see sometimes. And one of the stats that they have is quality drive rate and points per quality drive. I haven't actually looked at their key to figure out exactly what they mean by quality drive, but you get the idea. Like when you start a quality drive, when you're getting into the red zone or close to the red zone, when you're stringing a few first downs together, that is a quality drive. At least that's what I'm assuming their definition is. Utah State ranks 19th in the country in points per quality drive. When they get going, they score touchdowns more often than not. They average 4.16 points per quality drive. They go on a quality drive, they're getting a touchdown probably and a field goal at the very least. The Aggies score points when they find ways to string some first downs together and get a chunk play or two. The problem is they rank 106th in the country in their rate of quality drives. Only a third of their offensive drives have been deemed as quality drives. So Utah State, if they get going, they are hard to stop. They can explode, and they can explode quick, and they can get points. They're solid in the red zone at getting points, and they find ways to get points if they can get off to a good start. But they just so often can't get off to a good start. They struggle to stay on the field when they get to third down. Their best drives, like go look at a lot of the drives the Utah State has had where they score points. Most of those drives don't have a third down or only have like one third down. Utah State just does better when they don't have to deal with third down. Because when they found themselves in third down, it's usually after back-to-back ineffective plays where they run the ball on first down for between -2 and +2 yards. So you end up with anything between 2nd and 8 and 2nd and 12. And then you pass it on 2nd down, and Bryson Barnes is pressured, throws an incomplete pass. You have 3rd and 8, and it's hard to convert from there. Utah State needs to have an effective 1st and 2nd down. Ideally you just convert on 1st or 2nd down, because that's been a key for Utah State's success. Is, you don't face a 3rd down, but you're going to face 3rd downs at some point. You tend to face between 11 and 15 3rd downs per game. You need to convert at minimum 4 or 5 of those typically. And you want to convert close to 7 or 8. Ideally you convert everyone, but in a realistic sense, convert between 4 and 8, maybe 4 and 9 of those 3rd downs. Like again, 4 is your bare minimum. You're probably scraping by a win if you only convert 4. If you convert 8 or 9, the Aggies probably put up like 40 points if they're able to have that kind of 3rd down success. So for Utah State's offense, and there's a lot baked into this trend overall, but getting those consistent 1st and 2nd downs and just having 3rd down success and even 4th down success in the instances that they choose to go for it, that is a massive key for Utah State. And if they're able to do those things, I see a lot of points coming for Utah State. I've currently predicted them at 31 because I think there's going to be some success because Nevada's defensive metrics are awful in a lot of ways. They've not been super great against the run. They've not been super great against the pass. I mentioned the quality drive rate stat. Nevada ranks 120th in allowing quality drives. Half of their opponents' drives have been quality drives when going against their defense. So maybe Utah State has a little bit more luck because they're going up against a defense that has given up a lot of those successful drives to opposing defenses. So there's just something that Utah State needs to do on offense. And I go to another key, and this is where I said I was going to get to the offensive line. And that is just find a way to protect Bryson Barnes, but get creative where you need to. This is where you trust in the creativity of Kevin McGivern, where despite some of Utah State's troubles in the last few weeks, I don't think Kevin McGivern is really at fault for them. Because one, it's just hard to be super creative every single week. It's hard to be a genius every single week in football. You're going to get caught up a few times, but also I think the execution of the offense just hasn't been there. I think they've had, good game plans overall. They just haven't been able to execute them because Bryson Barnes is running around, or they try and run the ball, try and get it to Miles Davis, but then, you can't find, consistent running lanes. But protecting Bryson Barnes is a key. But again, be creative. Get Bryson Barnes out of the pocket. I know they've tried this. I don't want to say that they haven't been trying this, but lean into that where you need to continue that trend where get Bryson Barnes out of the pocket. Have a few quick throws where you need them. Screen plays, right? I don't know if they've really utilized screen passes as much as I feel like they could have. I know that they've had a few every game. I know they tried it against Hawaii, and the ones I remember them running didn't work particularly well. But get creative in the pass protection. Because if Utah State's game plan is my old mantra of just play better, that's not likely to yield a ton of success. You obviously need to encourage and demand better play from the offensive line, but at some point you got to run with the horses you got. And if they're not getting the job done, you need to put them in the best possible situations to succeed. If they're struggling with pass protection, find ways to make up ground wherever you can. We saw Utah State do this with its skill position players. They have basically two viable wide receivers in their pass game. And Bryson Barnes has thrown for 1,800 yards this season. And you still got 4 games left. This is a guy who could throw for 2,500 yards with two viable receivers out there. They're missing 2 guys who are out for the year. Guys, they expected to go 4 deep with experienced guys. They didn't have that. So what do? They turned Miles Davis and Javen Jacobs into wide receivers and caused a lot of problems with defenses that didn't know what to do when faced with with running backs split out as wide receivers in one play and then going to play running back the other. Going with running back heavy, sets. You have 3 running backs in the backfield. You do a no huddle and suddenly you have a 5 wide receiver spread. Utah State has gotten creative when they didn't necessarily have the depth at a position. They didn't have depth at wide receiver. So Kevin McGivern invented depth out of nowhere. Not completely out of nowhere because he had some versatile wide receivers. I think both Miles Davis and Javen Jacobs are converted wide receivers. But he pulled some depth at the pass catching area, wide receiver, tight end, running back. He pulled out some more depth than they had because of some unfortunate circumstances. Now we're 11 weeks into the season and the offensive line isn't where it needs to be. Well, these guys are paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. I would trust them to come up with something like and again, I don't know. This is why I'm not paid to coach. I say the default things like screens and roll the quarterback out of the pocket, but I think that there are ways that Utah State can figure out to try and mitigate some of the pass rush that they're going to see because they're going up against a guy, Dylan LaBarbera, where I'm trying to pronounce his name. I'm not trying to say his name sarcastically, where he's leading the country in tackles for loss, 14 and a half. And he's also got 5 or 6 sacks, I think, where he's top 20 in the country in total sacks. So you're facing a guy who's going to get after the quarterback. And you got to find a way to pass protect in an unideal situation. This is where they're going to earn their money. They have some offensive linemen that have been struggling. One, earn your money by teaching them and helping them improve, because that's a big part of your coaching is developing. So help them get better. But also, we talk about this over and over, and coaches use this terminology too. Put your players in the situation that is best for them to succeed. And so that's the job for Utah State with his offensive line is don't just say, well, we hope you play better. It's about them putting these guys in the best position to succeed. And it is a tough task. It is one that I could not do. I am wholly unqualified to do that kind of thing, but this is why they're paid the money and I'm not. So we'll see how well they pass that test, the coaches and the players, because the players have an onus too. They got to own up to where they haven't been as great these last few weeks. And so we're going to see them put all that to the test, players and coaches alike, to try and figure things out. Let's go to the text line real quick before we shift over to some of the defensive keys. 5338 saying the 5338 Sports Re-Education Academy and think tank upgraded AI predictive engine says that the Aggies will take care of business tomorrow night at Venerable Maverick Stadium against Nevada, 37-20. And yeah, I mean, the 5338 predictive engine and all that has been on a pretty good roll with at least one of the teams. I think it was 3 or so weeks in a row. Predicted one of the scores right. We'll see which one of those is right for this game, as you got the Aggies scoring 37 and Nevada scoring only 20. 2305 saying, sorry to interrupt your discussion with Utah State, but I was wanting to know if you have any idea how I could watch or listen to Ridgeline versus Park City today. Thank you. Yes, go to CashValleyDaily.com. We should have that stream up. If it's not, then that's not a good sign. Yeah, they're both up. So if you go to CashValleyDaily.com, just go to the Sports Local Prep, click on the link, and I should double check if everything looks like it should be ready to go. Yeah, because that will be, I think, 7 p.m. tonight. I've not been as plugged into high school football, but they're also going to be on 104.5 The Ranch, which you can listen to. You can stream the radio show or obviously listen over traditional radio. But yeah, CashValleyDaily.com, that'll have the link. The stream will get going here. Again, if the kickoff is at 7 o'clock, 5:50. Also, yeah, so I guess they're going to start at 6. So pregame should begin at about 5:50. So if you're wanting to watch Park City or the Ridgeline against Park City, you should be able to watch it on CashValleyDaily.com. You're welcome. 2305. So let's shift to Utah State's defensive keys. Went over Utah State football and their defensive keys. And I've basically got one thing where it's like, you do this one thing, and I think Utah State will win the game in the end. And that is, don't let Nevada run the ball effectively. Utah State has kind of sold out against the pass in 2 of their last 3 games, where they, they basically let Hawaii run the ball, barely putting anybody in the box. Did the exact same thing against San Jose, and they allowed rushing yards against bad rushing teams. And I don't really hold that against the Aggie defense because of the nature of the game plan. Didn't work particularly well against Hawaii, but it did work in the end against San Jose. They allowed Hawaii to run for 133 yards, and they allowed San Jose to run for 194 yards. The worrying thing for me was when they went with a bit more of a balanced approach, they allowed 224 against New Mexico. So in Utah State's last 4 outings as a defense, they have allowed opponents to rush for 6 yards per carry and 193 per game. 3 of those 4 opponents have rushed for north of 193 yards. So 3 of them are above that average of 193. A couple of them well above that average. So Utah State needs to come out and just play the run effectively. Now, Nevada, that is their strength, so to speak, but it's not necessarily a good strength. Like, this is a 1-7 team for a reason. They average 4.1 yards per rush. They average 138 yards rushing per game total. Stop them from running the ball, and I just don't think they really have an answer. Like, if you stop Hawaii from running the ball, they just throw it on you. If you stop San Jose from running the ball, they throw it all day on you. And New Mexico, they've put up a fairly balanced offense, and they managed to run against the Aggies no matter what there. I don't think Nevada can throw the Aggies out of kind of an all-out run defense. I don't think Carter Jones is that guy. Now, if he is, adjust. If he comes out and throws for 200 yards in the first half, well, you're paid to adjust. But in obviously that's where you go. But this is a guy who hasn't thrown for more than 202 yards in a game, and only once in a game has he thrown more touchdowns than interceptions. He had 2 touchdowns and 1 interception against Fresno State, but he had 1 TD to 2 interceptions against San Diego State. He had no touchdowns or interceptions against New Mexico. And then he had 0 touchdowns to 3 interceptions against Boise State. And he's not a runner. He's at 16 net yards this season, and he has 2 games with negative rushing yards. This is a guy who's not going to kill you with his feet. Maybe he scrambles for a first down on like a 2-yard, on like a 3rd and 2 and he's rolling out, but like this is not a guy who's going to kill you with his legs. And I don't think he's going to be able to really burn you with his arm. Like, so long as you're not giving up that 70-yard touchdown pass over the top, like this is a guy that I don't really think can beat the Aggies with his arm. So don't give him more room to roll by letting him get into play actions, which can be, for quarterbacks who need a boost, like play action are their savior. Like it's the savior of system quarterbacks. And so don't give an option to go into, 2nd and 4, be able to do a play action pass and beat you over the top. Utah State needs to be able to stop the run, make Carter Jones beat them. And if he throws for 400 yards, then I guess tip the cap to the freshman. But Utah State, in my opinion, wins this game if they hold Nevada under 120 rushing yards, or even under 130 or 140. They win this game if they do that. If they let Nevada go for 160, 170, 200, this could be a very frustrating night for the Aggies if they did that. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll hear from some player interviews that Eric conducted earlier this week with Utah State tight end Josh Sterzer and defensive tackle Gabe Iniguez. That's coming up next here on the Full Court Press, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Hi, this is Brooke Stevenson.
Ty Smith.
And David Castor with Adams Wealth Advisors. We're truly honored to be named Best of Northern Utah Gold winner for the Best Financial Planner. This community means everything to us, and we're grateful for every customer who made this possible. Thank you for your trust.
Advisory services offered through Adams Wealth Management, a registered investment advisor. For important disclosures and more information, visit adamswealthadvisors.com. That's adamswealthadvisors.com.
The patio is open, the chips are endless, drinks on tap. You know it's got to be Cafe Sabor, Cache Valley's best Mexican restaurant, gold winner in the Best of Northern Utah contest. Experience Locals Day every Thursday with a huge burrito, endless chips and soda, only $7.95. That's a complete lunch for just $7.95. Finding any lunch under $10 is nearly impossible. Every Thursday, drinks, chips, and massive burrito, just $7.95. The patio, the sun, the fun at Cafe Sabor in the historic train station on 6th Weston Center in Logan.
Addiction is something in this day and age I think all of us have been touched by in some form or way. For me, 14 years ago, I lost my father to an opioid overdose. Addiction is something that whether you're struggling with it personally or you're watching someone you love struggle with it, it can feel like there's no hope. If you've lost hope or you're scared for someone that you love and you don't see hope on their path, call Renaissance Ranch today. You can learn more at renaissanceranch.net. They have a location right here in Logan.
If you're thinking about getting engaged this holiday season, S.E. Needham Jewelers is the place to shop for your diamond engagement ring. S.E. Needham's has the largest selection of wedding rings in the area, including hundreds of styles in platinum, white gold, and yellow gold. We import diamonds direct from Antwerp, Belgium, which enables us to guarantee the best price on diamonds. We also offer the most complete warranty and services of any store in the state. Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7, where Utah gets engaged. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
Click this link now to review my bank transfer. I didn't make a bank transfer. Ugh, another phishing message. Are you frustrated by these too? So much of our lives are online today. To make sure my information is protected, I checked out CISA's Secure Our World resources. They've got 4 simple ways we can stay safe online. First, learn to recognize and report phishing. Next, create a strong, unique password for each online account. And use a password manager if you can. Then turn on multi-factor authentication for extra security and you'll receive a code when logging in. And finally, turn on automatic software updates for convenience and safety. Click here to track my delivery. Another phishing message. But now I know how to protect myself from scammers, and you can learn too. Go to CISA at cisa.gov/Secure Our World for more quick, easy tips to be safer online.
PTA can help enrich your child's life and learning experience. Join us today.
It doesn't matter who you root for. The Full Court Press has all the high school sports covered. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Mountain Valley Heating and Air Conditioning. Now's the time to feel the love and the savings. With current tax credits and government rebates, you save up to 40 and 50% on new heating and cooling systems. Call now because the rebates end this year. So call 435-557-4181. That's 435-557-4181. From residential tune-ups to commercial HVAC projects, Mountain Valley has you covered with highly trained and experienced technicians. Again, call 435-557-4181 or go to mtnvalleyhvac.com and start saving while you feel the love. So let's go to some of the interviews. Again, these were from Eric Frandsen, who actually called during the break. He's still down in southern Utah, checking up on the show. Wondering how it was going. But we're going to hear from one of the interviews Eric Frandsen did, two of them actually, Josh Sterzer and Gabe Iniguez. Let's start with the tight end, the veteran tight end, Josh Sterzer, as they are coming out of the bye week and preparing for this crucial game against Nevada.
Utah State tight end Josh Sterzer, you guys are coming off of a second bye week. And let me just start there. Just how is this bye week different from the other one you guys already had in the season?
Just a little bit more R&R, a bit more being with each other, being with the team, but taking, a bit more of a break, getting ready for this last third of the season. We got 4 more games, ready to give it the rest we got.
How much self-scouting, looking more at film and just figuring out, where we're at, where we need to be as a team or even as a tight end unit for you and your team?
Yeah, we take this opportunity to reflect back on not just the most recent game, but all the games, right, and see what we've kind of done well, what we need to improve on, and take that going forward and just applying whatever we can find, in these last couple.
You're one of a real veteran guy on this squad who's been here for a long time, and so you've seen a lot of different things with this team and experienced a lot of different teams with Utah State. How would you assess kind of the mood of the team right now, where you've got 4 more games to go, 2 games are needed to get to bowl eligibility? There's weird stuff happening all over the conference, so you guys aren't really out of the picture for a conference title appearance. How would you assess kind of the mood of the team and what you've experienced so far this season?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think I've been here the longest on the team, but this is definitely the most parity we've seen in the conference, I'd say, during my time here. So, our destiny's in our own hands. All we can focus on is, winning every single game we're going out there for, and doing our best, and let the cards may fall where they may, and just go out there and be the best we can be.
This Nevada team, they've struggled to find wins, but they've been pretty good defensively. What are you seeing so far out of them as scouting the Wolfpack early on?
Yeah, they play really, really hard, and I think that's something they got going for them. They're a good team. Their record doesn't reflect that. They've played some really tough opponents, so we just got to go out there, play harder than they do, and execute.
What's been the difference with this team and how you play at home versus on the road? Because you guys seem to execute and have fun and be very efficient with what you want to do as an offense at home, but on the road things are a little bit different. What's been some of the differences there for you guys when it comes to home versus road?
It's tough. I'm not entirely sure. I think part of it is just we got great fans here at home. We have the Herd. They're awesome. They bring such good energy. And that's something we're trying to find out ourselves. But I think going forward for these last few, that's something that we'll definitely be able to look at and change.
You and Brock are routinely the last guys off the field for practices. The tight ends are always putting in a lot of extra work. What's the philosophy behind that? Why are you guys doing that, and how do you feel like that's paid off?
Well, a lot's demanded of us, right? We got to be in there in the run game, blocking with the O-line. We also got to be running routes and stuff. So there's not always time during practice to get everything done that we need to. So we figure, we can stay behind for an extra 10, 15 minutes. What's 10 or 15 more minutes? Just catch some balls, work on some more fundamental stuff that we don't get to maybe during the normal stretch of practice. And I think it pays off. I think every champion, everybody that succeeds has to put in extra work.
Kind of circling back on just the mood of the team, just in your role as kind of a veteran guy, what are you seeing from some of the more experienced players on this team? Obviously, we've seen over time some of the best teams are player-led teams. How would you kind of characterize the player leadership that's being exhibited so far for this team?
Yeah, Bryson, he's the best, right? He's the quarterback. He knows that's his role, and he does it extremely well. He's loud. He's excited every single day. He comes out just amped. But yeah, I think especially coming off a loss and stuff, or coming off this bye week, we shift our mentality to 1-0, right? We're focused totally on going forward. We're not looking at what's behind us, and just being the best we can be, and just being excited for one more opportunity.
And then, as we said, you guys you play well at home, and there's only this game and one more for fans to come and see you guys. So for those fans who haven't been able to come yet, who maybe are sitting on the fence, what would you say to fans about coming to check you guys out for one of the last few times they get to see you?
There's gonna be some really fun games, especially these last two. We're gonna be playing harder than ever because we wanna get to the championship. We want to get to a bowl game. So I mean, I don't know what else you could be doing, but it won't be as good as coming to the game.
Very good. Well, Josh, thanks so much, and good luck on Saturday.
Awesome.
So, yeah, that was Josh Sterzer, Utah State tight end for the Aggies. Looking ahead toward a big game. I know that's something you talk about where they're trying to figure out what's going on themselves between the home versus away performance. But we'll have to figure out if they can continue the good home play. At the very least, there's the positive side of that where they play well at home. And they'll have to try and figure out some of their road woes. They'll have 2 straight road games after this one, I believe. So they'll be at UNLV, then at Fresno, then wrap up the season at home against Boise. Let's hear from Gabe Iniguez, Utah State defensive tackle.
Talking to Gabe Iniguez, Utah State getting ready for Nevada. But before we talk about the Wolfpack, I wanted to just ask you about this last week, the bye week. How did you feel like that went for you as player?
Oh, man, I think it worked out perfectly. Coach Bronco had a great plan for us, and everybody got their bodies back feeling, close to 100%, as close as we can get, and just was, spending a lot of time in the film room, watching them, getting some extra time, watching Nevada and stuff like that. But biggest emphasis was just get everybody legs back and get all the nicks and bruises all out the way, and make feel good.
How was this second bye week? Similar or different than the previous bye week you already experienced this year?
Just a little different because we're a little deeper in the season and got a lot of more miles on our legs right now. So just emphasis this week or this past week was just getting everybody back healthy, making people feel a little better, and that's pretty much it.
How are the players responding to kind of where you're at right now in the season?
I think we're just turning up the notch a little more, doing stuff that we were doing better at the beginning of the season, talking about hustle and effort and stuff like that. But we traded off to do more position mastery, like execution and stuff. But I think the emphasis right now is not what we do, but how we do things. So we're just getting back to the basics of our spirit, will, and effort.
This team plays really well at home. They've struggled a little bit on the road, and there's various circumstances as to why that might be. But what do you think? What's been the difference about this team having so much extra juice at home versus on the road?
We're still trying to figure that out too, but I just think, obviously you come home, you play at home, and it feels very familiar. And sometimes you go on the road, and some trips, I guess you would say, like some, little bumps in the road or whatever. But I mean, we just obviously, like I said, you play at home, you feel comfortable and stuff like that. So that's pretty much it.
Let's talk a little bit about Nevada. They've made a quarterback change kind of midway through the season. What are you seeing different with Carter Jones now under center for them?
They're definitely trying to run the ball a lot more, you know what I'm saying? So that's what we see them coming in, trying to run the ball on us. But he has a good arm and could throw the ball very well. And number 13, he's a very good athlete, so they're going to plug him in places to give him the ball. So I think, they're still good at throwing the ball, but they will try to come and run it.
Yeah, they still use Chuba. He's still involved in the offense, not as a quarterback, but they use him in a lot of different ways. And sometimes in the running game, it looks like they got a couple different guys. They use kind of another three-headed monster similar to what you faced against New Mexico, or what are the differences between how Nevada runs the ball and what you saw at New Mexico?
Kind of similar. They like to run outside zone, inside zone, some gap scheme, trying to get on the edges and stuff like that. But I feel like you said, three-headed monster or whatever, they have the ability to put him in anywhere and plug him in and just give him the ball and let him run around and, be an athlete.
For you, for your unit, for the defense, what's it going to take for you guys to finish the season strong, where you've no more breaks from here on out? Got at least 2 that you need to get to bowl eligibility, but there's been a lot of chaos in the conference, so there's still this outside shot you could be in the conference championship discussion.
Biggest thing for us defensively, we just need to focus on ourselves and do our job at the highest level we can and be your best when your best is needed. So there's basically being able to execute and doing your job at the highest level you can. That's all we need to do as a defense.
Well, Gabe, thanks so much for your time and best of luck on Saturday.
Right on. Thank you.
So that was Utah State defensive tackle Gabe Iniguez. We're going to take one more break, and when we come back, we'll give our quick as we can preview of the rest of the weekend. We are going to be out slightly early in this one. We've had our show cut short every day this week. Luckily, these last 2 days have been pretty much the same length. We'll be out at 5:47 as opposed to our typical 5:59. So we'll be back. We'll preview the rest of the weekend for other Mountain West teams in both football and men's basketball here on the Full Court Press.
Thank you for letting Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat, the Allergy Clinic, and the Hearing Aid Center care for your family this year. Be sure to call us for an appointment before the end of the year to make the most of your cafeteria or flex funds. Located in Providence and North Logan, Cache Valley ENT also has offices in Box Elder, Rich, Bear Lake, and Franklin counties. The entire team at Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat wish you and your family a healthy holiday season. Go to CacheValleyENT.com for details. Most insurance plans, including Select Health, are accepted.
Need a great deal near USU? Mention Aggie 79 and score a room at the Baum Hotel for just $79. Enjoy charming, homey hospitality in downtown Logan. You'll love the clean, spacious rooms and friendly, attentive staff. Take advantage of free breakfast, free Wi-Fi, and a seasonal outdoor pool. At that price, it can't be beat. $79 rooms with Aggie 79 at the Baum Hotel. Value every day of the week. Call 435-752-5220. That's 752-5220.
Hi, this is Robbie with LSS Insurance. Medicare changes can be confusing, but they don't have to be. Skip the ads, the junk mail, and the endless phone calls. Come talk to a local licensed pro that knows all the local Medicare possibilities. Let's sit down face to face and make sure you have the right plan for 2026. No pressure, no cost, just the help you need from people who live and understand our community. Call 752-9493 today and speak with a licensed agent at LSS Insurance. Get the most out of Medicare. Let us help you.
Winter's here and that old car sitting in your driveway isn't getting any warmer. Turn that frozen junker into cold hard cash with DD Auto and Salvage in Logan. It's never too cold, too wet, or too late to clean up and cash out. DD Auto and Salvage makes it quick and easy. They'll even pick it up for you. Get the most money possible for your junk vehicle or scrap metal and earn a little extra holiday cash while you're at it. Call 787-1204. That's 787-1204. And let DD Auto and Salvage pay you today. DD Auto and Salvage. Cold cars turned into hot cash.
Join the show by calling 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Franson and Jason Walker.
Walker here with you until we wrap up the show in about 10 minutes, giving you a final preview of this upcoming weekend. We've talked about, Utah State, their basketball game, and men's basketball and women's basketball, along with their football game upcoming tomorrow. Let's go over real quick the other games happening in the Mountain West, starting with football. Obviously, the Aggie game against Nevada, that kicks off at 5:30, and they're on CBS Sports Network. For those of you who can't make to the game, Aggies favored by 9.5 in that one. But before the Utah State game kicks off, you have Air Force in San Jose. That'll kick off at 4 p.m. They're on FS1 as San Jose favored by 5.5 there as they host the Falcons, who finally got a win in Mountain West play. But San Jose, they're only 2-2 in Mountain West play, 3-5 overall. Then you got UNLV at 7:30. They're the next game. So if you keep it on FS1, you'll go from watching Air Force in San Jose in what should be a high-scoring game, and you'll go straight into UNLV in Colorado State. The Rebels trying to rebound from a loss last week. They're favored by only 4.5. They're in Fort Collins, though. It probably plays a factor in where they're not favored by as much against a Colorado State team that is struggling mightily. 2-6 overall, 1-3 in Mountain West play. Then the nightcap, it's Mountain West after dark, 9 p.m. kickoff Mountain Time. They're in Hawaii as the Warriors are hosting San Diego State in what is a massive game. I wouldn't have expected this to be a massive game in Mountain West play, and that's probably why it's not on national television, or at least partly why it's not on national television. Games in Hawaii are kind of tricky that way. But San Diego State's 7-1. Hawaii is 6-3. San Diego State still undefeated in Mountain West play. They are currently the front runners for the Mountain West Championship in Hawaii. They're 3-2, so they've had some slip-ups, but they could certainly throw a wrench in some things and maybe even get themselves close to a appearance in the Mountain West title game. Unlikely to host it at this point, but could maybe sneak into that game if they manage to beat San Diego State, and obviously we're able to run the table from there. So that's what's going on in football this week. A few teams on a bye. There's only 4 games in the Mountain West this week. Let's look at the Mountain West in men's basketball. A bit of a shaky start for some of the teams. Others have done, perfectly fine. San Diego State and Utah State both won their first games pretty handily. Nevada handled their first game pretty well, as did Grand Canyon. New Mexico getting a pretty solid win in their season opener, and as did Wyoming. Other teams have already picked up a loss. UNLV obviously lost in somewhat embarrassing fashion to it was UT Martin, and then it was Fresno State that lost to USC Upstate, although Fresno State, they are 1-1 as they beat Fresno Pacific, a non-D1 team, in their season opener 88-51, but they lost to USC Upstate 66-67. Air Force picked up a loss in their season opener. Of course, they're ranked, I think, 273 in the KenPom rankings. They faced Austin P. I can't remember how to spell it or how to say it. Somebody told me, literally had one of the texters tell me how to say it, and now I can't remember. They're projected barely to beat them, 72-68, according to KenPom. Is actually, when you look around the weekend, everyone in the Mountain West is going to play at some point this weekend. Either today, Grand Canyon and Utah State are both playing today. You also have games on Saturday and Sunday, so a full weekend of Mountain West action games on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Almost everyone is projected to win their next game. San Jose State is the only team not projected by KenPom to win their next game. They're taking on UC Santa Barbara tomorrow. UC Santa Barbara ranking 125 in KenPom. San Jose is 150. But everyone else projected to win their game. San Diego State on Sunday taking on Idaho State. Their Aztecs expected to win that one by a lot. Utah State, narrow favorite over VCU. KenPom's score prediction is 81-79, giving the Aggies a 60% chance to win that one. One to keep an eye on for the Mountain West is Boise State's Saturday game against Utah Valley. They tip off at 4 p.m. on Saturday. The Broncos coming off of a humiliating loss in losing to Hawaii Pacific. They're going to face a pretty scrappy and often underrated Utah Valley team. Broncos are projected as fairly heavy favorites at home, but we'll see how they bounce back from that. Colorado State expected to win big over Nebraska Omaha. Nevada taking on just regular Pacific. We've talked about Hawaii Pacific and Fresno Pacific. Nevada will take on just regular old Pacific. And Grand Canyon, they're taking on actually Coach Jared Calhoun's old stomping grounds, Youngstown State. And the Lopes are pretty heavy favorites in that one. New Mexico taking on UT Arlington. UNLV going up against Chattanooga. I already mentioned San Jose against UC Santa Barbara. Wyoming taking on Cal State Fullerton. Fresno State going up against Long Beach State. That's another one that's projected to be pretty close. Similar score margin there, 2-point favorites by KenPom's score prediction, similar to Utah State, who are projected to win 81-79 over VCU. And then Air Force, again, they're taking on Austin PA. I should have double-checked it. Again, somebody told me, and I completely forgot. But they're narrow favorites in that one. So that's a look at the Mountain West, as they've got a full weekend of basketball. We're getting into the full swing of things, and we're I think they just barely wrapped up KVNU Aggie game day for basketball as they're switching things over. So if you're wanting to listen to the game, obviously if many of you can't make it to Frisco, Texas, That game will again tip off in about 15 minutes, maybe 16 or 17, because they always start late. We'll have a chance to watch that one. But a lot of action going on in the Mountain West. We should have coming up shortly a couple of games in high school. Ridgeline is hosting Park City, and then Green Canyon is down at Skyline. You'll be able to hear the audio commentary there on 100.9 Light FM, and we'll have an audio stream as well on Cache Valley Daily. The video will be available for Ridgeline as they host number 8 seed Park City in the 4A football playoffs quarterfinals tonight. Again, that's set to kick off in just under 15 minutes. That's going to do it for us here today. A slightly shortened show. Utah Jazz, you'll be able to hear them here on the Fan, the radio home of Utah Jazz here in Cache Valley. Thank you so much for listening, and good luck to all the teams that are playing this weekend. We'll react to all those coming up on Monday here on the Full Court Press. Have a good evening.